Welcome to the Sam Sorbo Show. I'm going to get right into it. Critical race theory. This is the big movement right now in our time, and it is very, very dangerous. And I'm going to walk you through why and how, and then we will get to what to do about it. It has invaded our schools already. It's been walking through the institutions for quite a while now, and so we have teachers who are fully invested in teaching critical race theory, such that at this point, if the teacher is if the school district says, okay, the school board gets involved and the school board says, no, we're not going to be teaching critical race theory, you've got teachers out there who are radical, I suppose radicalized would be a good word for them, and rebellious. And so they are deciding that they are going to teach it anyway. So parents beware. This is going to be a tough thing for parents to navigate, especially if you decide to leave your children in public schools. So I want to get right into it because I have this article that goes through a lot of this, and so I want to put people on notice because critical race theory is racism pure and simple. They are trying to basically turn racism back at people who they deem to be inherently racist. And the people who are inherently racist are the people who are not deemed to be of color, let's say. So there are a lot of memes going around about this. There's Babylon B has gotten in the game with, half black man ordered to pay reparations to himself with the guy who is, biracial or whatever, standing there like, how am I going to do that? Right. Students are taught in school now that make America great again. That phrase is now considered to be covert white supremacy. Now, here's the problem, folks. You think, well, I'm not going to tell you what you think, but a lot of people think, oh, this is just another fad. This is just another one of those things. But I got to tell you, I had this impression years ago that that just struck me that we are on a so a lot of people view it as we're on a pendulum, and the pendulum swings one way and then it swings back the other way. But I see it a little bit differently. I see that we are on a spiral, okay? And the spiral is going down, but it goes up at some point, but it never quite reaches back up to the level that it was before. So we spiral down, but then we spiral back up a little bit, and we go into a kind of a recovery, right? But then we spiral down, we go farther down, and then we go back up, but we don't go quite as high as we were before. And I see that with the degradation in our culture. And so we have these movements that come through our culture, that it like a wave, and it sort of comes through the culture. But I feel like the waves are getting bigger. Let's put it that way. So in this article, it talks about a school district in Maryland called Montgomery County Public Schools, MCPS. The writers of this article received 685 pages, including the documents that are related to the MCPS's anti-racist system audit and their critical race theory classes. Those documents reveal that students in their largest school district who attended Thomas Pyle Middle School's social justice class were taught that phrase, "Make America Great Again," is actually a great example of covert white supremacy. Now, they rank these terms, they rank them on a pyramid. That phrase was ranked just below lynching, hate crimes, the N-word, and racial slurs. So here's the problem, a while ago, the left was saying, oh, you've got, you're doing dog whistles and you've got microaggressions. These are things that you literally can't perceive. What a great way to win an argument, is just to accuse the other person of arguing something that that they're not even knowledgeable that they're arguing about, like that they don't even know that they're arguing, right? So it's not that you're a racist and you know that you're a racist. It's that you're a racist, you don't know that you're a racist, and you can't possibly know that you're a racist, so you will never know when you're not a racist. Does that make sense? That is the greatest strategy for winning at this game that I think has been invented. So kudos to the people who invented critical race theory, although I would argue that it probably started with Gramsci. So they were also taught that white privilege means being favored by school authorities and also having a positive relationship with the police. Now, police come in many different colors. I don't know if you've noticed that, but critical race theory is racism. It's just racism that's separated from race. I mean, this is so evil. I'm not laughing. It's so evil. It, it boggles the mind. I honestly, it boggles the mind, but it's actually true. I'm not making this stuff up. They show that Montgomery County Public Schools allocated over $454,000. By the way, folks, it's not without funding, and it's not that it's separate from money. Very connected with money, because money is power. So while these people are arguing that power is bad, they will never turn down money, even though money is power. They did an anti-racist system audit to the tune of close to $500,000. That's your taxpayer money, by the way, it's your money. This was conducted by the Mid-Atlantic Equity Consortium, which is a company that claims that their expertise in using intersectionality as part of the theory of change makes them uniquely positioned to conduct the anti-racist audit and also mitigate the root causes of systemic behaviors. I am, what's another word? Flummoxed. That people are so, here's the thing, they're either idiots or they're involved. I don't see an in between. You cannot be a thinking person and go along with this. In Thomas Pyle Middle School's social justice class curriculum, there's a slide that they've called, "What is Systemic Racism?" In that slide, the students are shown this pyramid depicting differences between overt and covert hateful white supremacy. And according to the pyramid, we talked about that, Make America Great Again is an example of covert white supremacy. But there are others. The examples of other white supremacy include these sayings: "But we're just one human family." That's white supremacy. Color blindness is a white supremacist term. Cultural appropriation is now considered a white supremacist term. Celebration of Columbus Day is white supremacy. Police murdering POC, and POC stands for people of color. That's an example of white supremacy. By the way, police murdering people of not color, not white supremacy, not racist, no matter whose color is where. There's also the bootstrap theory. That's white supremacy. I wish I was making this stuff up. I wish. I'm actually going on David Webb's show Monday morning to talk about this some more. This is the most critical theory in our time right now. It is so devastating. Part of the reason that it's devastating is that it's entered the church. And part of the reason that that is devastating is because it is anti-church. It is anti-Christianity. It's anti-Judeo-Christianity. It is anti-God. It is the antithesis of the church, and therefore it is in direct competition with the church. Now, you might not be a churchgoer, and that is totally fine. Your views are your views. However, you living in the United States are benefiting immensely by the Judeo-Christian worldview. This critical race theory is a worldview that seeks to undermine and destroy the Judeo-Christian worldview. That means that it must destroy America. That's why Make America Great Again is its antithesis. It is absolutely against that phrase and that um, uh, endeavor. So it's very important that you understand just how devastating this critical race theory is, and you must understand that it is full-fledged in our public schools. If you have any care for this nation at all, you must get kids out of government-funded schools. And I would add, you have to be very careful with the parochial schools, with the religious schools, with the charter schools, with all the schools, because critical race theory has been inside our institutions of higher learning where the teachers were trained. I don't know how to be any more. I mean, I am as serious as cancer. I mean, this is a cancer in our culture, because while they're teaching the kids this, they're teaching them self-loathing, they're teaching them to hate the nation that they live in. They are raising social justice warriors. They're raising young people to war against the state. That's what they're doing. They are co-opting our youth. You thought Hitler Youth was bad? This is Hitler Youth on steroids. That's what this is. They found records that there is a social justice class that they offered at Thomas Pyle Middle School. It was a 1-week, quote, summer boost class, for which I'm sure the children got some sort of credit, right? It was called Reading and Taking Action for Social Justice. This is a class that's taught in public schools, okay? They're teaching the children to be social justice warriors. And it was in July of last year, during COVID. It said no grades were given and no actual work due. So why would a child do that? Oh, for free credit, costs nothing. There's no homework, there's no work due. There are no grades. It's pass fail. Of course, children would sign up for that. They make it as easy as possible, and then they brainwash the kids. The class material included a push for students to fill out a form letter with contact information addressed to the federal, state, and county education officials asking for more critical race theory classes in school. Can you imagine? And that, of course, is just the beginning. There's a slide for the class called "What is Intersectionality?" And the students are, and by the way, it's such a great thing to make up new terms and then bandy them about and then change their definitions as you go along, so that you refine the word to mean what you want it to mean. In this case, they're defining it as exposing one's multiple identities can help clarify the ways in which a person can simultaneously experience privilege and oppression. So everybody is intersectional. You are both the oppressor and the oppressed, unless you're white, in which case you're just the oppressor. Kimberly Williams Crenshaw, who is a critical race theory scholar, says this: intersectionality is simply a prism to see the interactive effects of various forms of discrimination and disempowerment. It looks at the way that racism, many times, interacts with patriarchy, heterosexism, classism, xenophobia, seeing that the overlapping vulnerabilities created by these systems creates specific kinds of challenges. They also had another slide that said race is created to justify enslaving people from Africa. Apparently they created race. That's funny because the first slave traders were Black Africans selling Black Africans of modern day, the first slave traders of modern day. Of course, the Jews were enslaved for hundreds of years in Egypt, right? Uh, Apparently that was totally fine, because I dare say that Judaism, being Jewish, is not part of the whole intersectionality scheme because they're the oppressors or something. This entire scam, because that's what it is. By the way, the students are suggested that they view a TED Talk interview with Patrisse Cullors. She's a founder of Black Lives Matter. Um, and they are actually told these definitions that Black Lives Matter is just a political movement to address systemic and state violence against African Americans. So systemic, right? The idea is, so the takeaway idea, because I gotta finish this up. The takeaway idea is it is systemic. That means the only way to get rid of it would be to destroy the system. That spells the destruction of the United States of America. It spells the destruction of the church. And by the way, we have church leaders who either are misguided, misinformed, or evil, downright evil, because they're pushing this, and they're pushing it on their churches. And I went to one a little over a year ago, maybe under a year ago. I went to one thinking, this looks like a very popular church. It's a 35 church plant community. It's huge. And they tried to push this on me and on my family. And thankfully, my kids were absolutely disgusted with being told that they needed to go apologize to Black people. And by the way, I know a lot of Black people who are disgusted by this. Power is defined as wealth, whiteness, citizenship, patriarchy, heterosexism, and education are a few key social mechanisms through which power operates. Well, power operates throughout the world. What are you thinking? You think you can get rid of power? You're seeking power by defining power in this manner. They'll never turn it back on themselves. You'll never see. I mean, that's where the that's where they're hypocritical. That's where the hypocrisy comes in. Sorry, got caught up on my words. Racist policies is defined within that statement as this: there is no such thing as a non-racist or race-neutral policy. That's where they're going to trip themselves up. And that's where I want people to understand that this whole idea, critical race theory, is racism. That's all that you need to, I mean, honestly, you need to know that, and you need to know that children should not be going to any school that has not passed a litmus test for this critical race theory. And I dare say there are very few schools that can pass that litmus test, because the litmus test must be applied individually to each teacher. So here's what I'd like you to do. If you're sending your child to any school, go to each one of their teachers and give them that test and say, how do you feel about critical race theory? And then question whether they're being honest with you. Also sit down with your children and have a conversation about what critical race theory is, and start just by asking them questions. Start by saying, do you know critical race theory? Do you know what that is? What do you think about it? And just start the conversation. Do you think that I'm a racist? Do you think that you're a racist? Have those conversations with your children. All right, I'm going to have to leave it there. But there's more. By the way, it's not enough to not be racist. Now you must be anti-racist, which, by the way, will make you a racist, but according to their definitions, less so. And if you're white, there's no hope, because their church, and this is a church, the Church of Critical Race Theory, holds. They have their original sin, which is America and racism, and there is no forgiveness. So it's basically, it's the opposite of the Christian church, which is forgiveness is available and redemption is available. And in their church, it's not. And so I would ask you how they will make a better world, because they won't. But we did, and we're proven. So, all right, we're going to leave it right there. For those of you on radio, stay tuned. I'll be right back. Just a quick break. And for those of you listening elsewhere, go find another video. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Sam Sorbo.